A guy made a shvua that someone else threw a stone in the past. So he said that's a machlokas Rav and Shmuel because you can't make that future. You can't make that such a shvua in the future. He will throw because you don't know he's not in your control. So that Rav said you're liable, and Shmuel said that you're exempt. So now we are 25b, right at the first wide line. Amar Abaye Moder Rav. Rav agrees. So a guy makes a shvua. I know testimony about you. I know testimony about you. And really, he forgot, and he didn't know the testimony. So he made an oath that I know testimony about you, and then he forgets, and he didn't know the testimony about you. So we say you're going to be exempt. Why? So you're making an oath that I don't know edus about. I don't know testimony about you, and then you ended up forgetting. So you're exempt. Why? Well, let's think. There's two ways you can make this oath. I don't know testimony about you, and you could also make it if you say I don't know testimony about you. So, sorry, you made an oath. I know testimony about you, right? You're going to be exempt. Why? Because what if you say it in the negative? I don't know testimony about you. Now that happens to be a different kind of oath called the Shavuot Eidos. There's a whole chapter about it. It's a separate portion of the Torah, Shavuot Eidos. So that has its own rules and regulations. It can only be in a courtroom. It has its own rules. So since I can't make this, since I cannot make it in the past, because the past is not considered an oath of utterance, rather an oath of testimony. It's its own category. So therefore, you don't have it in the positive and the negative, and therefore you're going to be exempt. Yadati velo yadati. I know testimony. I don't know testimony. That's a machlokas Rav and Shmuel, because I do know testimony. I don't know testimony. So that's going to be a machlokas Rav and Shmuel, and ha'adati velo ha'adati is also machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Ha'adati velo ha'adati is I did testify or I did not testify. So if you know testimony, so then you're not allowed to say that you don't know testimony. So if you know testimony, you have to go and testify. So you can't say that that you're not going to testify if you know testimony. And if you were to do that, it would be nullifying a mitzvah, and that you can't do. So these two cases also machlokas Rav and Shmuel, where just like that of a machlokas by a guy who throws a rock, right? So there you can't make a future. There you can't make it in the future because you can't control him. So too these two cases of whether you know testimony or you don't know testimony, or I testified or I will not testify. You can't say I will not testify because if you know testimony, then you have to testify. So that's also going to be a machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Mitzvah. If you know testimony, yeah. It's a funny thing because if it's things that need two people and you're the only guy that knows testimony and you go, that's lashon hara. It's a funny thing. But yeah, if you saw something, then you have to testify. Yeah. Okay. So now Bishlam al Shmuel, it's good according to Shmuel. Once again, Shmuel is the one who said that you're exempt when the guy threw the stone, because you can't predict the future. You can't say that same Shmuel, the oath, in the future he will throw. You don't know that. So according to Shmuel, it's very good. Why? The Amar Milsa the Leise B'Lahaba Lo Mechayv Aleha. The Sha'avar. Shmuel says something which you cannot testify about in the future, so you're not going to be liable for even in the past. So since you can't say Reuven will throw the rock because you can't control Reuven, so therefore, even when you say you make an oath, Reuben threw the rock, you're still going to be exempt. So therefore, we understand why the Torah made a special category called Shavuos Eidos. Once again, Shavuos Eidos is saying that you don't know testimony. You can't say I don't know testimony. It's saying I don't know testimony. You could say that. That's called its own separate oath. I don't know testimony. Someone asks you for testimony, say, and you make a shvua, I don't know testimony. That's called a shvuas edus. So according to Shmuel, it makes sense why that's a whole separate parsha in the Torah. The Torah, so to speak, removed it from the section of an oath of utterance and made it its own section called a oath of witness. Why? Because you can't say that in the future. I don't know testimony. I will know testimony. Yeah, how do you know that? So therefore, it's something which cannot be stated in the future, could be stated in the past. According to Shmuel, generally you're not liable for that. Here is a novelty that we said you are liable. In fact, we made it its own section called the oath of testimony, not an oath of utterance. It's its own separate section. Yeah. So okay, Ela the Rav, according to Rav, who says you're even obligated on an oath that you cannot make in the future, like Reuben threw the stone, you'll still be obligated. So why did the Torah have to make its whole new section of Shavuos Eidos? You could just subsume the different rules under the regular oath of utterance. So El Rav Lamai Hilchasa Afkir Achmano. Why did the Torah make its own section? It doesn't break the rules, so to speak. According to Shmuel, it breaks the rules. You can't make it in the future, so you should not be liable. Torah teaches you are liable. But according to Rav, who says that you are liable for an oath that even though you cannot state it in the future, you'll still be liable. Why did the Torah make its own section called Shavuos Eidos? Amru Rabbanon Kamei. So now the rabbis came to answer. According to Rav, why do you have this section in the Torah as its own unique section? Amru Rabbanon Kamei de Abaye. I'll tell you why. To make you liable for two. Make you liable for two oaths. You make an oath in the past, I don't know testimony. So now you'd be liable for two if you really did know. If you inadvertently, if you really did know and you just forgot and you made that shvua, you'll be liable too. One is an oath of utterance and one is an oath of testimony. So Amr Lahu, Abai said back to the rabbis, Tati lo matisu. You can't be liable too. Why? Tati lo matisu Amri said you can't say that you're liable too. Why not? The Tanya, the Brisa says, La'achas me'ela, la'achas ata mechayvo, v'yeta mechayvo shtayim. The Torah says, La'achas me'ela. Only for one of these are you going to be liable if you do it inadvertently. From one of these, either an oath of utterance or an oath of testimony, you can't be liable both. Yeah. Ula Abaye. Okay, so therefore you can't be liable both. Well, then according to Abaye, L'Abaye l'mai hilchasa afkir rachmana. So according to Abaye, according to Rav, why did the Torah make its own section called an oath of testimony? For what reason? It can be subsumed under the regular oath of utterance. So, l'mai hilchasa afkir rachmana. For what reason did the Torah single it out? Make it its own exclusive section. L'chedetanya b'kula namar teaching for the following brisa. B'chula namar v'ne'elam. In all the shvuos, it says the word v'ne'elam. You had a lapse. To be liable, the korban, the sacrifice, you have to have had a lapse. You forgot you were tamei. You forgot the food was tamei, or it was kodesh. Sorry. You forgot the base of Migdash was a holy place, whatever the case is. You have to have a lapse. V'kan lo namar v'ne'elam. Here, by the oath of testimony, it doesn't say v'ne'elam. It doesn't say anything about having a lapse. Why? L'chayv al amezid kishogeg. To be liable, it's going to make you liable for a, just like you violate your oath inadvertently, you'll be liable. So too, if you violate it advertently, you're also going to be liable. So usually you have to have a lapse, and only if you have a lapse are you liable to bring a korban, ola v'yoreh, let's say by our cases. By an oath of utterance, though, you'll even be liable if you do it advertently. That's a novelty. For that, we had its own special section. So says the Gemara, Amrle Rabbanan Abai Ema b'Mezid Mechayev Chada and b'Shogim Mechayev Tarti. So I don't understand. You're gonna be liable to sacrifice if you do it advertently, and if you do it inadvertently, so you'd be liable to sacrifices, one for the oath of utterance and one for the oath of testimony. So Amr Lahu, you can't do that. Why? Lav Hanad Amr Inchi. Didn't we learn in the Brisa? Didn't we learn in the Brisa? La'achas achas tamechayvo v'yeta mechayvo shtayim. Ve'i b'mezid mi katarti. So the Brisa teaches us that for these oaths, an oath of utterance or an oath of testimony, you can only be liable one. You can't be liable two. So So therefore, you're not going to be liable two of them. You'll only be liable one of them, and
that's why it came out. That's why the Torah says it out specially as a special parsha.
And therefore,
tell you that chiddush that there is such a chiddush that you archive one by Maisie.
Right, and that's why by that you're even liable for a mazid. That would be the novelty of this part. Right, because by mazid you would never be liable two. So the novelty really is that by mazid you'll be liable one, and the word achas will teach you that by shogeg you can't be liable two. But the point is that according to Abaye, according to Rav, the reason why you have this own section in the Torah is to teach you that it's separate. It's different than everything else. Everything else, you're not liable a sacrifice if you violate your oath advertently. Rather, you're only bringing a sacrifice if you violate it inadvertently. Here, in this case, you'll bring a sacrifice even if you violate it advertently. Okay. Rava has another answer. Rava Amar Mishum Davar Shebechlal. It's one of the ways that we expand the Torah. You have something which is a general rule, Davar Shebechlal. The Yatza Lidon Bedavar Achadash, and then all of a sudden, a part is singled out. A novel part is singled out. The Yatza Lidon Bedavar Achadash. So Ein Lechabo Ela Chidusho Bilvad. So it's coming to teach you a specific novelty. Yeah. So according to Rava, there's no reason to the word achas is not telling you that you're not going to be liable to. It'll be used for something else. So it's just coming to teach you something unique, that when you have this special oath of testimony, that it's going to have its own rules. For example, you have to do it in the court. An oath of testimony has to be done in court, and as opposed to an oath of utterance doesn't have to be done in court. And that's all. And since it has a novelty to it, it has a little bit different rules than an oath of utterance. So therefore, you'll just be liable only for the oath of testimony. So according to Rava, you don't need the word achas to teach you. You'll be liable one and not two, because according to Rava, since we have a general section of Torah of all oaths, and then all of a sudden comes the oath of testimony, and has different rules that it has to be done in court, for example. So once it teaches me that novelty, so now I see that it's unique. It's unique, and it's only going to be liable for itself, not for anything else. Therefore, the word achas will be used for something else. We don't need it to say they're only liable one and not two. So basically, both Abai and Rava, they both are agreeing that the Torah had to specify a oath of testimony. According to Abai, it's to teach you a novelty that you're liable if you do it advertently. And according to Rava, whenever you have all the same rules and all of a sudden one section is singled out and has its own rules, so that makes it unique and different. And you never think, if you now violate an oath of testimony inadvertently, you should be liable for an oath of utterance also, because it's its own unique section. So okay. So now Michlal, this implies Michlal de Abai Savar. Michlal de Abai Savar Isa l'shvuah ba'olam. So that means, according to Abaye, that you need the verse to come and tell you that you're only liable one and not two. So that means that really they are a little bit interchangeable. They are, so to speak. You would have thought that an oath of testimony is similar to an oath of utterance, and that's why you need the Torah to tell you one and not two. Well, if that's true, V'hamar Abaye moder Rav b'omer lechavero. Abaye says, Rav agrees that when you tell your friend, Shvuah she'ani yodeh lecha edus, a guy makes an oath, I know testimony about you, and then you forgot, de lo yadolei, de pater, you're going to be exempt. Why? But the reason why you're exempt is because there is no way to say this oath. If you were to say this oath in the past, I don't know testimony about you, that's not considered an oath of utterance, right? You say, I do know testimony about you, but you're not able to say, if you say, I don't know testimony about you, it's a separate kind of oath. It's an oath of testimony. And therefore, in the oath of utterance, you don't have both in the positive and the negative. Because if you say, I do know testimony about you, you're not able to say, I don't know testimony about you. That's already a different kind of oath. And Abaye holds you're exempt. So what do you see? That the oath of testimony and the oath of utterance are two separate sections. Because if they were the same section, so then the fact that if I say I don't know testimony about you is an oath of testimony, okay, but they're really interchangeable. So here lies the problem. On the one hand, you told me they're interchangeable, and I need the Torah to tell me I'm liable one and not two. That shows you they're really interchangeable, and the Torah is to teach you that they're going to be separate. On the other hand, you told me that that if I make a shvuah that I know testimony about you, and then I forget, I'm not going to bring a sacrifice. Why? Because if I say it in the past, I don't know testimony about you, that's a different category of a shvuah. So the question is, according to Abaye, is it the same category or is it a different category? He contradicts himself. To that, the Gemara says, Hadar be Abaye mehahi. Abaye retracted from his earlier statement that I guess what that the Torah tells you. Which one did he retract from? That you're liable one and not two, or the other statement?
It holds that one must bring an offering if he falsely swears.
Oh, good. So really, Abaye holds they are interchangeable, and that's what the Torah told you, that you're liable one and not two. And that which Abaye said, that if you were to say, I don't know testimony about you, you should be exempt, because if you say, I didn't know testimony about you, it's a different category. From that, he retracted. Really, they're both very similar. Okay. The Ibais Ema, another answer is Chadaminayu Rav Papa Amra. One of these two statements of Abaye, one of them was stated by Rav Papa, not really Abaye. There's no internal contradiction between Abaye. One was stated by Abaye, and one was stated by Rava, and therefore there's by Rav Papa. Thank you, and therefore there's no problem. Okay. So Rabbi Shmuel said you're only liable for future shvuos, for future oaths. I will eat, I will not eat. You're not liable for I ate, I did not eat. So, and Rabbi Kiva argued on him, and he said that you are liable for even I ate and I did not eat, or I will eat and I will not eat. You're liable for both past and future. Tana Rabbanan says the Brisa laharo lehitiv. You made a shvuah about the future. You will do something or you won't do something. Something that's going to be not good for you, so to speak. You're restricting yourself. Lahara, you will not eat. O lehitiv, something that's beneficial to you, I will eat. You're adding to yourself. I will eat. So now, ainly eladvarim sheish be'en harava atava. It's only things that really have harava atava, that things that are either going to be restricting you or beneficial for you. She'ein ben harava atava, things that aren't I will eat, I will not eat. How do you know that we include even those future shvuas? Talmud lomar o nefesh kisi shava levate bisvasayim. It says a soul that's going to make a swear. Sounds like any kind of swear, not only lahara o lehetiv, not only things that are restrictive or beneficial. Ainli ela lehaba, it's only things that are in the future. Lahara o lehetiv is a future oath. L'sha'avar minayin. How do I know that I'm liable for past oaths? Talmud lomar l'chol asher yivata adam b'shvuah. For anything that a person will swear. Sounds like it's including l'chol. What are you including? Past oaths. That is divrei Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva learns the Torah itself includes more than just future oaths. What are you coming to include? You're coming to include past oaths. Rabbi Shmuel omer lahara lehetiv lahaba. Rabbi Shmuel says no, lahara lehetiv is only for the future. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva, I don't understand. Im kain ainli ela dvarim sheish ben hatava v'hara. According to you, Rabbi Yishmael, that you're limited to these words, lahara o lehetiv. So that means you only include things that are going to be directly beneficial or detrimental to you, like eating and not eating. But other things, I will do jumping jacks. I won't do jumping jacks. Things like that. Things that don't have a positive or negative ramification to your life. How do you know that those are included? Minayin. How do you know? Amar lo, says Rabbi Shmuel to Rabbi Kiva, miribuy akasav, because the Torah includes them. So says Rabbi Kiva to Rabbi Shmuel, Amar lo, im riba hakasav. If you agree that the Torah is including more oaths, it's more expansive, im riba hakasav, so that lekach, riba hakasav lekach. Like, how do you do this? On the one hand, you tell me it's only lahara o lehetiv, future oaths. Then you tell me the Torah includes even oaths that are not detrimental or positive to your life. Other things, I will do jumping jacks, I'll run around the building 2 times, whatever, things like that. So once you include that, why don't you include past oaths also? So how do you include that and not include that? How do you choose what to include? So says the Gemara, Shapir Kamli Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva has a very good point to Rabbi Shmuel. Once you're including more oaths than what the Torah explicitly writes, how did you choose to include things that aren't detrimental or positive to you, and you left out things that are in the past oaths? Maybe include past oaths and exclude those. How do you choose what to include? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, this is very interesting. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shmuel Sheshimesh, asked Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. Rabbi Shmuel, who was a student, he served, meaning he learned under the auspices of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, who used to interpret the Torah, Shaya Dorish, as Kol HaTorah Kula. He would always interpret the Torah in the Beklal Uprat format. So Ihunami, Rabbi Shmuel also interprets the Torah in a Dorish Beklal Uprat. Rabbi Akiva, who was a student, as we know, of Shishimesh as Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum, the person that said Gamzu, he was always one who says Gamzu Latova. This is also for the good. Right? Famous stories about Nachum Ish Gamzu. He was always say that this is also for the good. However, when he would interpret the Torah, he would interpret it in a Shaya Dorish as Kol Torah Beriba Umiyat. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva also, we'll get back to a second, Ihunami Dorish Riba Umiyat. Remember, every time you have in the Torah, 3 things: a general statement, a specific statement, and a general statement. How do you view it? Do you view it that the first statement includes everything? The second statement limits it, not everything, only certain things. And the last statement includes things that are similar to the specific statement. That's called a ribui. Ribui, all inclusive, a little limiting, more inclusive. The other way to interpret is called a klal upratu klal. Klal means not that we're including everything, we're just very vague. We don't know what it's referring to. It's very vague. The prat, the specific, comes, and not that it limits it, it comes to explain to you, comes to define for you that which the general statement was referring to. And then the second of the general statements also comes to add a little more, things that are very similar to the definition. So one's a ribui miut to ribui, and one's a klal upratu klal. What time is that today? 6:45. Jules, up to you. I can go for 2 more minutes. We'll stop here. I apologize.
It's okay.
Oh, I totally blinked today.